What's up and welcome back to the Chris Gates Fitness Podcast. In today's episode, I am super excited to let you in on my recent conversation with my client, Ben. Ben and I have worked together for 4 months, and in this episode, we're talking through what his experience was like in my one-on-one online fitness coaching program and the type of progress that he made. Ben's story, I think, is going to resonate with you a lot because I know a lot of you out there struggle with finding the right program, maybe sticking to a program, also dealing with the frustrations of why the scale isn't moving and just understanding how to interpret your progress. There's a lot here that Ben is going to dive into and talk about that is super helpful. And I always think it's cool to be able to hear from people who have made amazing progress because the insights that Ben shares can hopefully empower you to get consistent and stick to the process at working towards the goals that you have. Really excited to dive into this episode here with Ben. And really quickly, before we get into the conversation, I did just want to plant this in your brain if you're listening. On Monday, August 25th, I have a massive thing that I'm going to be telling you about, and it's super exciting. And if you are a busy parent who is looking forward to taking advantage of the kids going back to school and maybe getting a bit of your life and your routine back, this is something you're going to want to keep your eyes and ears open for. Okay, so just putting it out there, August 25th, something big is coming. I will share details about what it is ahead of that, but stay tuned. Make sure you're subscribed to the podcast so you can get the details. And with all of that said, let's dive into my conversation with Ben. Thanks for hopping on here, man. I feel like a good place to start would just be telling everybody a little bit about you, who you are, and what led you to want to do coaching and to want to work towards the goals that you have.
Yeah, I grew up in Pittsburgh. I'm from here, plan to stay here, have a family, two young girls, 10 and 7, wife, other supportive family. And my two girls are really what guided me to do this kind of thing, right? Because I want to show them strength and I want them to see what it means to live a healthy life, because it's easy to not live a healthy life, right? It's very accessible to eat junk and to play Xbox all day and to do all that kind of stuff. So yeah, that really sparked it. And I've been on this journey since 2016 and started out and I was in the office and there's a gym there. So me and another guy decided to go in there and he knew some self-defense, martial arts kind of stuff. So we started doing that. And then as we're doing that, I'm like, I got to get stronger because this guy's bigger than me. So then I started lifting a little bit and doing this kind of stuff. I started running. I noticed that when I was running, I started getting weak, but I weighed less. So then I finally said, "No, I need to do something that's more structured so that I can see some actual progress." And so that led me through a slew of things. I have them all written down here. I went through every influencer you can think of on social media. I'll just give you some. I've been through Bear, Performance Nutrition's exercise things. I've been Hard to Kill, Mind Pump Media, Superhero Jacked, Seal Fit. I've gone through a number of them and I like them all and they're all good. It's just none of them really got me to progressively overload like this one has.
Gotcha. Yeah, and that's really interesting. And prior to us working together, I know something you mentioned was hopping from program to program, just trying to find what was going to work best for you. But I wasn't aware of the specific programs like that whole list you ran through, which is interesting. And a lot of those are ones that I'm familiar with, like that I've actually, not that I've done them before, but I've heard of them before.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's interesting just what you ended with there with them maybe lacking that progressive overload built into it. Something that I feel like we really leaned into in your program was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it felt like we maybe stuck with the workouts that we were doing, the exercises or the progression that we built out for a bit longer period of time than you had done previously. Do you think, would that be accurate to say that?
It is, because I have a personality of obsessions. And I can get real obsessed on one thing, dive real deep into that, and then I can just splinter out to many other things. And then I get real into those and I split and I get real into that. So I have a real hard time. I don't like standards. I don't like people telling me what to do. I don't like people, I don't repeat activities because I just bore with those. I need something else. But I've noticed that as I did the boxing and you do this and you do that and you do this, you do that, and then you don't see a result as neatly because you've done so many things, but shallow, and you just don't see the result the same way.
Yeah.
So I had to change.
Yeah. No, that resonates with me, man. I mean, that before I became a coach or anything like that was like your story when you first signed up resonated a lot with me just because like I could see a lot of what I had done in the past that was
Mhm.
similar to that too. I think a lot of what gets put out there on social media, just I guess the nature of social media these days is like everything is a quick snapshot of what to do or like the information you need to know. And it even seems like a lot of the programs that are put out there now are tailored to that. Hey, 3 weeks or four
Or four
weeks
weeks.
to
Yeah.
making progress. And yeah, I think like from working on this for a while now, both personally with my own fitness and then in coaching, it just seems that that 3 to 4 week window, I feel is like when you really start to get good at
Mm,
what you're doing. And then I
mm,
think a lot of those really great benefits come from continuing to squeeze as much out of it as you possibly can, moving into weeks 5, 6, 7, 8. And that's what we did with your program was the 8 week
mm.
training blocks. It feels like that really helped propel things for you to just, while it may have gone against what you were familiar with in the past, so it might have felt a little bit uncomfortable, just continuing to progress and push through. It seemed like that was beneficial. So kudos to you for being able to make that transition, especially after all those experiences of doing something different. That's hard to do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think what I had to do is I had to find the diversity in the repetitiveness, right? I had to see doing one more rep or maybe doing two more reps or just maybe I took a little bit of a break just to get that extra rep in just so I could beat that number from before. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So then it became a competition and then I was able to find ways to do these sort of micro diverse interactions within each of the sets and whatnot.
Was that fun or did that take some time to become fun to like actually develop that competition with yourself? Because that's something I try to promote. I try to tell people about all the time. Hey,
Mm,
it can turn into a fun competition with yourself.
mhm,
Like you're going in there trying to beat that past
mhm.
version of you. Was that quick or did that take some time to be able to adopt it?
I I would say it was not quick, and maybe when it clicked for me is when the weights got a little bit heavier. Because at one point I was doing weights as it wasn't quite enough, but we had to get a baseline and see where I was at. And then as that started to get up, I didn't feel wimp anymore, and I ended up lifting all kinds of heavy weight or whatever. But I think it took a little bit for me to see a little bit of the progression and get out of a zone where I feel like I've been for the last 5 years anyways. And then once I got past that, then it became a little bit more competitive. And then it was like, yeah, I can get another calf raise in or two calf raises. And it hurts when you do that, but it's like when it's over, it's gone and you're good and just do it again next time. So like you got to work and squeeze that muscle a little bit and get through that pain a little bit and then it goes away.
Yeah, I love that, man. Hey, it hurts now, but the minute I stop, it's going to go away. So
Right.
why not hit another rep?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
love that. I love that.
And
Can you, you go
sorry,
ahead?
the RIR thing, like I I've always worked out to a number,
Yeah.
I'm gonna do 15, 15, 15. Okay, 15. It doesn't matter how hard or easy it is, 15, 15. Yeah, I'll do 20, 20, 20, whatever. And so this whole reps in recovery,
Reps in reserve. Yeah.
reps in reserve, yeah, it's something I've heard before, but I never did. But then it was like 15 was my last number, but I'm feeling all right. Maybe I could probably do three more. So let me just get one or two more in and just get past that number that isn't magical, but don't go too far to the point where you're just totally exhausted.
Yeah. And so for people listening who might not be familiar with reps in reserve, it's basically just a technique that allows you to focus on lifting to an intensity threshold as opposed to what Ben just said, which is like staying in a rep range. And similarly, man, like that was something that unlocked a lot for me to think about. Like once I was able to wrap my mind around, okay, each set should get to a certain intensity level. It helped me realize that, okay, if I'm doing 3 sets of 8 to 10, most of the time, the 10th rep on that first set feels fine in
Hmm.
the grand scheme of things. It doesn't feel
Right.
like the 10th rep of the third set. That
Hmm.
third set, the last set that I do of an exercise and the last couple of reps on that set are what really feel intense. They're the ones that really feel hard. And so that just unlocked it for me. It's, oh, I'm not making every set effective like that.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that was helpful for you because it is more nuanced. It's more of an advanced type of like concept to dive into with lifting. But
Mm.
I think it's really beneficial for just about anybody, even if you're not trying to aggressively build muscle or strength. I think it's something that can be really beneficial for everybody to just think about. Is the end of your first set from a intensity standpoint, is it the same as the end of your third set? And if it's not, that might mean that you could do a bit more. If you do a little bit more every week, like what that can snowball up to being is pretty massive. Yeah, so I'm glad that helped you. Did want to ask, like, was there a moment when things really clicked for you? I'm curious if was that part of it, was developing the competition with yourself part of it? Was there a moment or was it like a gradual thing where you just, as time went on, started to feel momentum with what you were doing?
There might have been some key points. I don't think there was one. I think there
Mm,
might have been some key points. I think when I got the adjustable dumbbells, something said, okay, you've taken this to the next level now. You're not just using bands or doing body weight, something. It's not that those don't have a place because they certainly do. But so that helped. When I got the bench, that changed a lot of things as well. Cause I'm like, I was laying on the floor doing dumbbell bench presses kind of thing. And I just wasn't feeling it. And it's because I wasn't getting down. I wasn't stretching the pec enough to make that happen. So that helped. And then there's the delts, something I never worked on. And then you had me sit on a couch or whatever is what I was on, sit on a couch and bend over and take the arms out to the walls. And like I hated that and loved that exercise at the same time. And now I actually see like a 3D version of my shoulder and not just one side of it, one plane. But then so you get on the bench and you can do the incline and now you can do that a little bit more comfortably. Although it hurts like on my chest sometimes, just down on that thing. But so I think the bench, the weights, I felt like I was in an environment where muscle creation could actually happen. I wasn't just cooped up next to my computer desk with bands or something. I think the reps in reserve helped that. And then just visually seeing progress helped as well.
nice. Yeah, can you explain to, I mean, and you did just there talking about some of the equipment you got, but can you explain to people a little bit about like how you've gotten creative with lifting from home? Because I think it was awesome some of the ways that, okay, you'd have some exercises that maybe you would run out of traditional weight, but you found creative ways to add more weight with different items you had. And there was also, I believe we dealt with the ceiling, right? The ceiling being a bit low. So there's only
Mhm.
certain exercises we could do. Can you paint a picture there? Because I feel like you did a really good job of getting creative.
Yeah, it's almost embarrassing probably with the stuff that I've done. But I do have a suite of things, right? I have a pull-up bar in the entry of my office here, and I try to hit a couple before I come in or when I go out or whatever, that kind of stuff.
I love that.
In the old days, I don't know, 5, 6 years ago or something, down in the base, down in my garage, I have a detached garage. I had just a bunch of cinder blocks and they were just doing nothing but collecting spiders and bugs. So I would lift those or I would stack them up and put a broomstick between the holes in cinder block and do, would that be like a reverse row or something? You just
Like an inverted row type of
inverted
deal.
row.
Yeah.
Yeah, that kind of deal when I was on vacation. I do have this. I was never in the military. I'm probably not cut out for the military, but I happen to really appreciate their discipline and their way to be functionally fit. Rucking is a thing that I do often, so I'll throw the weight on, and if I get to carry it over the head, I just carry it over my head. I just get tired of having it on my back. I'll suitcase carry it for whatever. When we're on vacation, I was running suicides just because that's what I used to do for sports. And then I say, yeah, I might as well carry a chair while I do it. So I grabbed the Adirondack chair, put it up above me, and did suicides kind of thing. So it's just it's just yeah, using what was around and trying to push it just a little further.
Yeah. I love that, man. Lack of equipment or even no equipment doesn't have to be a barrier. There's so many things around the house that actually can work out well for you to be able to get workouts in. Because at the end of the day, like lifting weights, it's just challenging your muscles, right? Your muscles don't know whether you're holding a dumbbell or a
Right.
barbell or using a cable machine or lifting a water jug or an Adirondack chair above your head. Your muscles just know if they're being challenged. It goes back to that
Yeah.
RIR concept too, right? It's just about the intensity with which you train. And so if you want to train your back or your chest or your biceps or anything like that, there's a way to get it done. And yeah, oftentimes the creativity just has to come into play if you're limited in terms of the traditional equipment. But I
Yeah.
thought you did a great job with that.
Thank you. I will say one thing that, so I've always done that sort of diverse, creative kind of way to do things. But what I didn't do is track it. I didn't
Mm.
have a spreadsheet. I didn't write down, I carried one Adirondack chair. I carried two Adirondack chairs. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? That kind of thing. So those creative things, though fun and were good for me to get together, I didn't track them well. So I didn't see myself getting better. Now with the weight, and I can click the thing to 25, write it down on the spreadsheet. Okay, click it to 30. 2 weeks later, I'm actually seeing that. And so that benefited me as well.
that's great. Yeah, and that goes back to that competition we were just talking about, right? To have that competition with yourself, to try and show up and beat the past version of yourself. You got to know what you did last week. And so
Yeah.
being able to have that documented, I think oftentimes like a lot of that tracking stuff, if you haven't done it, it maybe feels like it's super monotonous or this big task or that it's going to be really time consuming. But I don't know, like I personally, I've always felt that once you do it for a couple of weeks, you get into a rhythm of it and it just becomes part of the routine. Did it feel that way for you? Was it an adjustment? Was it hard to do or did it just feel manageable?
So I was used to tracking calories and things through MyFitnessPal. So I was used to writing that kind of stuff down. I was not used to doing it with the exercises. So it did take time, but it wasn't time like away from my family. I'd already blocked out that spot to do the exercises. So as soon as I finished a set or whatever, I would go ahead and just type it in there while I'm in the zone. So it was easy enough for me to do because I did it at the time that I already had blocked out for the work.
Gotcha. You mentioned MyFitnessPal, and I wanted to ask obviously about nutrition too, because you're a self-proclaimed foodie. And
That's
so
right.
we talked a lot about nutrition throughout your program. Definitely, I think I'd be curious to hear about how you feel things evolved from a nutritional standpoint. And then I also think for people listening, like there's a lot of other foodies out there. I think just generally being parents, managing the diet side of things is it's always a challenge because like you said at the very beginning of the episode, it's easier to be unhealthy or it's easier to
Mm.
make those choices than the choices that maybe support your health. So, what was that whole process like for you and how did it evolve in being able to effectively manage the diet side of things?
Yeah. So the whole sort of foodie thing, it hasn't changed. Like I still have that identity. I want that identity. I dig into that identity constantly. It goes back to that sort of obsessive sort of personality that I might have. But I just don't overindulge in it. You know, if we're gonna go out to eat and have, if I'm going somewhere out to eat and it's Italian, I'm drinking wine, I'm eating pasta, I'm having bread, I'm eating oil. Otherwise, I'm not going.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I shouldn't even be there. There might be an Amaro after that. There might be gelato after that. That's the deal. And so I haven't done a great job of planning for that beforehand. I try by trying to reduce some stuff. But I do think about I probably shouldn't eat ice cream 3 times this week, right? So I still have those moments where I eat the things that I want. If we're out on vacation or something and there's a special type of food, I'm gonna have it. But I've also, and this goes back to my whole diversity thing again. It's like I don't want to just eat the same thing over and over again. I don't want to eat chicken out of a Tupperware every single day. But if I don't, then I end up eating this sandwich from this place and I'm having leftover dinner for this one for lunch. And then I'm all over the place. So I did standardize my breakfast to whatever the serving size is of the oatmeal. It's 3/4 cup oats, about a tablespoon of honey, and then a 1/4 cup of nuts. And that's usually my breakfast. If I want more protein, I'll add 2 egg whites to that. And then lunch has become either ground turkey or chicken breasts and Uncle Ben's rice, a half package each time I have lunch kind of thing. So I have tried to standardize that so that I can be more flexible for the foodie weekend or dinner.
And
Um,
how has that been? Like, are you with that type of standardization? Is it still enjoyable for you to be able to manage your diet that way? Like, how's the sustainability aspect of it been?
yeah, this might be a weird comment, but Action Bronson is one of my favorite rappers. I don't know if you heard of Action Bronson, but he's a bigger guy and he's been trying to, do you know who he is by
No,
chance?
uh-uh.
Okay. He's a big guy and he's trying to lose some weight and get a little healthier, but he's probably going to stay big. But he says, and this has other quotes like it, but I want to look like a rhino, so I'm going to eat like a rhino. So it's what you are, what you eat. And right. So if I'm eating donuts and muffins, I'm looking like a donut and a muffin. And that's not what I want to look like. I want to look like a lean piece of chicken. I want to look like brown rice or whatever. So when I'm eating those things, even though I standardize them, when I eat them, I'm thinking, you are the food that you eat. Right. I think that's also like an old ancient sort of Chinese proverb or something as well. That was enough for me to get over the sort of I have to do this same thing all the time, standardization thing, because it made me feel good when I ate it.
Yeah. No, that's great. And I think being able to identify that is huge too, right? Like to be able to identify when I do X, it makes me feel Y and
Mm,
Z, right? So if I fuel my body this way, I feel more energized, I feel more athletic, I train better, and that leads to
mhm.
other like leaning into those things that cause you to feel that way is such a powerful thing to be able to do. But admittedly, it's hard to do because
Yeah.
typically the things that do that are the things that require a little bit more work. So from a
Mhm.
diet perspective, it probably requires you to cook it.
Yep. Which
You
I
know,
got to
it
do it.
doesn't, it's not the thing that you go through the drive-through for or that comes in a package. And it doesn't have to be all the time. And so I'm glad you've
Yeah.
been able to strike that balance with some standardization and some flexibility, because without the flexibility aspect of it, then just rigid standardization,
Yeah.
and that's rarely sustainable
It's
for anybody.
punishment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But no, I think that's a powerful thing to really lean into. Okay, I did this and it made me feel good, right? I know that personally for me with alcohol was a big
Mm,
one where like I just realized I'm in this phase of life now where if I'm probably 1 to 2 drinks a week tops, probably one.
mm,
And that is in comparison to 7 or 8 years ago when it was 3 to 4 most days of the week. And just, it's not something that happened overnight. But the more I tapered it back and was able to read and react to how it made me feel, it helped lean into those things that just made me feel energized, and
right.
which is important as a dad, right? You got to, there's so much we got to handle on a daily basis that
Yep.
these habits of training and nutrition are going to help, or they're going to impact how you show up. When you look at your progress to this point as compared to where you started, what stands out to you?
Unfortunately, I am pretty hard on myself. So I'm like, I haven't
Yes,
done
yeah,
enough.
yes, you are.
Right.
You are hard
Yeah.
on yourself, Ben.
I have not done enough. So I do try to step back and see things that have worked. When we're taking a walk or going somewhere, if my daughters mention something, which I've called out to you before, right? Like, I can see the muscle in your leg, or you actually have like a traps a little bit now instead of just flat across. Those things, it was helpful for me because I don't see it in myself very easily. It's almost like I have a defense to not see it so that I can do more, which is good and bad. But when other people see it, then it's, oh, I should step back and see it for myself. So that stands out. And give me a little bit more of that question because I'm currently blanking
Yeah, no, just
on what you're
thinking
asking.
about the before and after progress, about what stands out to you now as compared to where you started. But I'll
Okay.
piggyback off of what you just said there, because I think in how we tracked and manage things for you, I feel like you can look at the weight on the scale. You can look at different metrics and measurements that can put a number to whether you're doing quote unquote good or bad. But I think the most impactful or the most noticeable things that stood out to me was your training performance was a big one. Just
Hmm.
seeing that consistently go up, and then the progress photos. You know,
Hmm.
like the scale didn't move very much for you, but when we
No.
look at month 1 to month 4, it's very clear that slimmer around the waistline, more muscle built in the upper body. You very clearly changed your body composition, and the scale,
Hmm.
the scale really didn't do anything
I know.
significant.
It's frustrating. It's like frustrating. Like I think it should be like 148, like perfect BMI numbers, and it's not that
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
far.
No. And so I think but that's tough. And I'm the same. I'm the same. I think we're very similar. You and I are both very similar with a lot of this stuff. I struggle to see it in myself too. And so
Hmm.
having those additional, I guess, like data points along the way can be really helpful. just to make sure that you're on track, right? And then that kind of helps you get out of your own head. I don't think I'm making progress, but I got
Yeah.
this comment from this person. Somebody else said this thing. This
Mhm.
photo looks a lot different from that photo. I'm lifting 20 pounds heavier on X, Y, and Z. That's like, okay, maybe, yeah, maybe it's
And
okay.
and the alternative is to not do any of it, and it's gonna just look bad that way too.
Yeah.
You can't give up. Just have to keep going, even if you don't think you see it, because by choosing to not see it means you're choosing to hurt your own self in some way. So
Yeah. I have one final question that I do want to ask you, but before I ask it, was curious if you had any questions for me, because now you're going to be taking this stuff off on your own, managing it, and that's a whole different skill to develop. I was just curious if there's anything on your mind that I can help with as you kind of make that transition.
nothing stands out currently. I've been trying hard to hit that sort of 1900 calorie to 2000 kind of calorie a
Mhm.
day goal, right? And I've done well. And even though I haven't hit that goal, I'm no longer eating regularly 2300 calories. So I'm slowly moving it down, even though I haven't hit the goal that I've been wanting to hit. If I were to hit 1900 calories every day of the week consistently with no problem, is that not good for me? Do I need to then bump it back up, or should I have this laser focus on somewhere down there in the 19s, low 19s, and try to stay there for the next 10 years?
No, so I wouldn't recommend that. No, I think like a phased approach to this stuff is always best. If you are, and the reason that we've lowered your calories bit by bit throughout your program over 4 months is to just promote the fat loss aspect of things. And
Yeah.
by nature of that, which you have lost body fat, but you've also built muscle, which is why the scale has been hard to
Yeah.
interpret. The longer that you're in a calorie deficit, though, the more challenging it can be over time in terms of from a metabolism standpoint, right? The longer you're dieting, the longer you're in a deficit, the less energy you're giving to your body. It can lead to your metabolism slowly coming down, which then
Mhm.
obviously can lead to a lot of like the body composition changes you want to see becoming more difficult.
Yeah.
There's also like the mental side of it too, where like dieting on that few calories for forever can be pretty mentally draining too. And so we want to phase it out and get into an approach where you're never really running your body into the ground, right? You're
Mhm.
hitting these effective periods throughout the year where like we can maybe aggressively pursue fat loss, but then also understand that if we zoom out across 12 months, maybe 4 to 6 of those months are going to be geared to fat loss. Maybe the other 4 to 6 are going to be geared toward either maintenance or getting in a surplus to build some muscle. And you can dice it up however you want based on what your goals are. But I don't think
Mhm.
it's good for anybody to be at a lower calorie allotment just consistently because it just, from a number of perspectives, physiologically, mentally, like all that stuff, it can wear on you. And then it can make
Yeah.
everything else that you want to achieve more difficult. We've been working it down over 4 months. And I often like to approach managing this stuff based on what the phases of the year look like for you. And it's different for everybody, but I think most of the time, if we look at the calendar year, often fall in and into winter, just from a number of perspectives, is a really advantageous period of time to be at maintenance or be in a slight surplus. We're not at the beaches, we're not at the pools, we're covered up in hoodies and
Yeah.
pants and stuff like that.
Right.
So people aren't as like mentally worried about what they look like from a body composition standpoint. The foods also at that time of year, for most of us, especially you and I living in Pittsburgh, they tend to be a bit heavier and warmer.
Yeah.
And then we have those holiday gatherings and whatnot. That just feels like a good period of time to transition. And so that might be something for you to look out for as well,
Yeah.
being that we're recording this at the end of July, go into August, and then September, mid to late September, things shift there.
Steelers season start to
Yeah, once the tailgates start,
ramp
then
it
you
up.
just gotta. But no, yes, we laugh, but that is actually how I manage things for myself. We have season tickets to Pitt football, and so we tailgate for 6 or 7 games a year. We also tend to go on a road trip at least once a year, and I don't
Mm.
want to be in a calorie deficit for that. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to be focused on fat loss while I'm driving to see them play at Florida State or something. That's going
Yeah.
to take away from the experience. And it could do that with Thanksgiving and Christmas and any other holidays you celebrate. I feel like that cadence works for most people. And oftentimes, whether you want to do it in January, where a lot of people are motivated to lose body fat, or push it out a bit further into like when the weather starts to turn in the spring, then that's often a good time to maybe transition back to it. But that transition's important too. It's like another skill to develop, because eating in a deficit, and like you've been troubleshooting it along the way and figuring out what creative ways can I bring calories down, be able to stay in this deficit and see the progress I want to. It's also a skill to then add calories back in and not have it go off the rails. Like a lot of people, when they go into maintenance, they're like, oh, I can eat 400 more calories, so I can eat all these foods. And it's like 400 calories is a large snack. It's not that much food.
Yeah.
So it's another skill to develop. But that's 5 minutes of me rambling on what I think might work out for you. But the short answer is, I think a phased approach typically is.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
All right. Anything else on your mind? Anything else I can help with, or?
I don't think so. I feel confident to just keep pushing through here for a little bit and see where it takes me, and then figure out what to do from there.
Okay. The last question I have for you then is, for someone, because I think a lot of people deal with or struggle with what you had been dealing with, just like kind of program hopping and maybe struggling to stick to one thing. For anybody listening that might be in that process of starting and stopping and having trouble finding the right program, any message for folks who are going through what you had previously gone through, just in terms of advice or how to handle it?
Take a step back, I think, maybe, and look at what you've done and determine if you've actually made progress or not. And if you haven't, that might be a good sign that what you're doing needs to take a break. Also, get out of your own head and get in touch with people that are supportive and you trust, and get their sort of input on how it's going, I think would be important. And back to some of those things we talked about earlier, just like being able to making it something that's easy and approachable, something that's consistent, and something you can track, is not likely something you can jump around on. You need to be a little bit more strategic about it at a high level so that you can execute and actually see some progress on it. While hopping around and doing that feels like the right thing to do because you're always looking for the next right answer, it might be a good time to just pause there and see if there's a more strategic, more sustainable and structured way to do it, which is what you provided for me.
That's great. Sustainability and structure are two of my favorite words. That's great. Thanks, Ben. I really appreciate you doing this. This was fun to chat and talk about
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, absolutely.